Hi, this is Carl with another SOP video for managed service providers. Today I want to talk about reasonable behavior on the job market. In other words, I think it's time that everybody started being a little bit more honest about what they have to offer and what they need. Let me just give a timestamp to put this in perspective. So I'm recording this near the end of September 2022. Went onto a forum today and somebody had posted up, hey, I'm trying to get into the job market in IT. I'm still in school. I want to be honest about the fact that I'm looking for a part-time job, but everybody only wants full-time jobs. And then there was a long discussion about, well, people ask for things that are more than what they want. And then people require things that they don't really need. And some, obviously, some candidates exaggerate or put out inappropriate resumes for a specific job. So let's just take a step back and say, given the market today, here's some advice that I would have. Now, there's universal advice and there's time-bound advice. The time-bound advice is, right now, it is very much a seller's market, in the sense that people who are out looking for jobs have, in many cases, a choice of jobs, and they can demand a higher salary. And they may not have quite the qualifications that the employer would like ideally. But that aside, remember, everything ebbs and everything flows. And we've spent, a good deal of time with this being a buyer's market. So just keep in mind that in the long term, honesty and professionalism is always the best policy. So now let's talk about some more universal advice. You may have seen the meme where somebody posts up a job ad and says, I invented this technology 5 years ago, and they're asking me to get 10 years of experience. There's a lot of stuff going on where people who put together these ads just assume, oh, I want 10 years of this and 10 years of that and whatever, and I require all these things. I don't know who writes those ads, but I suspect they are idiots. There's actually great evidence to suggest that that's true. Your ad should reflect exactly what you need. Now, you can divide it into sections and say, absolutely must have, nice to have, hey, here are some extra bonuses that we'll throw at the bottom. But don't ask for things you don't need. Perhaps the biggest example of this in the last 10 years has been the increasing requirement that people have a bachelor's degree of some kind in order to get a job installing Office 365. That is not a reasonable requirement. I mean, it'd be nice. It's sort of like if you can hire anybody you want and there's a 10 candidates for every job or 100 candidates for every job, great. Have those ridiculous requirements. But really, it's just something thrown in there because people had hundreds of resumes and it was a way for them to narrow it down very quickly. That's not a long-term good strategy for hiring people. A long-term good strategy is to say, these are the exact skills that we need, and then go hire somebody who has those skills or has the aptitude and the demonstrated ability to train up and get those skills. So employers, be realistic about this, and I would recommend that you actually start the entire process by getting out an Excel spreadsheet and listing every technology that you have and all the technologies and the skill sets that you need. So skill sets are essentially knowledge and behavior in addition to the specific technologies that you address. So being able to work with cloud services is great. Being able to work with your specific cloud provider and having experience with that brand is a subtype of that. So create your spreadsheet. Now you've got a long list of all these things. Use that to then highlight the cells of the things that are critically important, things that you absolutely must have, and then bunch those at the top. And then say, okay, what is great to have, good to have, nice to have, and color code those and put them into nice categories. This allows you to then flow to the right and say, which things will I put in my job ad? If the bachelor's degree, it does not show up in that first list, don't put it in your ad, right? Don't put it in your job description. Don't put it in your ad. Once you've got a realistic ad that somebody could read, somebody in the industry could read and say, oh, I fit right about here, right? Go ahead and post it up. Remember, as a rule, men in this industry statistically will apply for jobs for which they are 60 to 70% qualified. Women tend to apply for jobs that they are between 90 and 110% qualified. So remember that the way that you post your job ad will affect the diversity of the clients who apply. I don't know how to change the world on that score. We're working on it, trust me, but today that's the reality. So write your ad to, in my opinion, you should write your ad to increase the diversity of applicants so that you can, stop whining about the fact that you never get anybody who fits certain criteria. The criteria that they don't fit need to be reasonable in the first place. So stop adding things that you don't need and stop putting a bunch of junk in there just to fill it up. The reality is you want somebody who is above the line with regard to the core technologies you provide. Look at what they're going to do every single day and then draw over another column in your Excel spreadsheet and draw across there. Let's move to, all right, what are the criteria we're going to use to evaluate candidates? Now, the subset that you use to evaluate candidates should actually inform you about maybe fine-tuning your job ad, but at a minimum, the evaluation criteria will let you know what's critically important. Because the truth is, if somebody has good aptitude and they're good at most of the core technologies you need, you can train them on all the other things they need to do in their position. Aptitude and a little demonstrated troubleshooting go a long ways. So once you've got these criteria for evaluating candidates, next, actually begin collecting resumes and looking at them and make a very small pile of people who, are at the top and have the absolute must-have. If that pool is big enough, then all of the people who have the great to have, good to have, nice to have, you can leave them for later. You may never come back to them, but never throw them away, except under certain circumstances that we're not going to talk about in this video. So now you have the subset of people who are at the top. They've got your absolute must-have criteria. And then when you do your interviews, base your interviews on the questions, the topics you identified in that Excel spreadsheet. You might literally, again, highlight those things and say, we're going to take some of these, turn them into questions, put them into a Word document, share it with everybody who interviews this candidate, and then actually use those written criteria to score candidates. Use a scale that's, say, 5 points or 7 points, so there's always a middle, and it's a clear division between above the middle and below the middle. And then have everybody who talked to a candidate rate them on all of the criteria and then compare scores. Now, if everybody agreed on one thing, fine, ignore it, whether it's high or low. But if some people said a candidate was high and some people said the candidate was low, talk about why. What's the perception? What's going on there? Remember, one of the biggest questions is, would this person be a good fit for our company? Are they nice to work with? Do they, seem to be both personable and good with technology? That sort of thing. Now, here's the really good news. Once you've got all that scoring in place, these criteria that have flowed from the job description all the way through the hiring process are going to help you determine what you're going to measure quarter by quarter as this person comes to work for you and then, needs to be evaluated on their performance. So you've got a process that continues on until the day they leave employment. So those are some of the the best practices, in my opinion, for employers. Be completely honest. Don't put in crap you don't need, and don't ask for requirements for things that are unreasonable. All right, now let's look at the applicant's perspective. First of all, stop being arrogant if you're arrogant. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten letters from people who said, oh, I took this one certification in Cisco or Microsoft or whoever says you should pay me $75,000. I literally got an email that said that 15 years ago. Now, today, you have to show me you got some chops for me to give you $75,000. Imagine how arrogant that sounded 15 years ago when this person had one MCP exam under their belt. Your skills are great and amazing, and that's why you're going to get a job someday, but don't be a jerk about it. The reality is, even if you are amazing and spectacular, the world is filled with millions of amazing and spectacular people. So keep the ego in check until you've been on the job for 35 or 40 years. Also, let me just give you the big red flashing banner of things that you have to stop doing. Ignore any counselor who has told you to take your resume and spam the universe. Do not spam the universe. Do not send out your resume to every job that is remotely related to something in which the letters I and T are within 6 feet of each other. Stop it. Some loser who should be fired came up with this strategy 25, 30 years ago and has been telling people forever, just blast the universe with your resume for anything. And the result is that employers get all these resumes that are not remotely related. You know, you can even see this for yourself. Go post a job on Upwork and say, I'm looking for this specific skill set. You will get 3 or 4 dozen resumes of people who don't do anything remotely related to what you're talking about, but they saw that technology was in that ad, and so they applied for it. Because they want to do that, or they hope they can do that, or they think they can do that, or they don't understand the technology and they think it's easy. So what the hell, you might as well send in a resume. Don't do that. Sometimes there are employers who keep track of these things, and you know, you don't ever want to come back to them 5 years from now when you are actually qualified in something and have this person said, yeah, you've been claiming that you're SQL certified for a long time, but I see that you have 12 minutes of experience, right? Be honest, be realistic. You know, there's no point, it's a lot like dating. There's no point in lying at the beginning and then creating a mismatch and a bad relationship. Nobody wants that. You know, hiring and getting hired is literally two people dancing around each other trying to make sure that they've got a relationship where they can work together for 3 to 5 years, and if you're very, very lucky, more than that. So find a good fit, just don't find the first job available. I don't like employers to hire the first candidate that's qualified, and I don't like job candidates to take the first job that they're offered. Make sure it's a really good fit, because this is going to be roughly a third of your life for the next several years. Make it good. Make it something where you want to work with these people and you want to do the job that's been specified, and of course, make sure that you're qualified for it. Now, obviously you're not going to lie on your resume. We're not going to go there. I'm just going to assume that you're a very honest person and you would never do that. Having said that, you can reorganize your resume so that if there's these requirements up here that say absolutely must have, put your stuff at the top. Say, oh, I have this thing you absolutely need. I have this thing you absolutely need. I have part of this thing you absolutely need, but I'm working on it, and I promise you, if you hire me, I will do an amazing job and I will get the skills that you are looking for. Be honest. You know, one time I went to rent a house with my daughter, and there was a line literally out the door and down the street. Everybody wanted into this house. And we applied for it like everybody else. We did our little tour. We got the application. We filled it out. And in addition to that, I wrote a note to the landlord and I said, look, here's the deal. You're going to love having us as tenants. And we're going to love and care for this place like you've never seen before. And it'll probably be worth more money when I leave than it is today. And I just promise you, I'm going to be the greatest tenant you've ever had. Please take a chance on us. And we got the rental. And the reason is very straightforward. We made a connection with them and we stood out from the crowd. Do that, even though this is the 21st century. If you really want a job, make sure there's a truly great fit and then send a note. And if you're right and there's a good fit, that note is going to hit home. Now, if you're wrong and it's like, oh, no, we just need somebody who can defrag databases. So, you know, we don't really need all that crap we were asking for. Well, then it's going to be a miss. And it's probably good because you probably didn't want that job anyway, unless it's a job that you love defragging databases. So the point is, be very, very honest, and don't get too frustrated. I hope you see from this conversation that on both sides of it, there's a lot of frustration historically in this job market thing that we do in IT, and it's been going on for a long, long time, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. So don't be frustrated. Acknowledge the frustration. Build your behavior into the system. Basically say, I'm dealing with overworked, frustrated people who are getting a lot of irrelevant resumes. I'm working with overworked, frustrated technicians who are being underpaid by people who don't take advantage of their skill set and or do take advantage of their skill set but want to underpay them for it. Just acknowledge that that's what's going on and then say, okay, how am I going to show up in that environment? And just be as sincere and honest as you can and focus on the future. Focus on what should come out of this for both sides, which is that, 5-year relationship. Man, that would be perfect. That would be an amazing thing today. So let's make that happen. And then we'll look at the next 5 years and the next 5 years. Now, one final note, which is about this forum that I looked at this morning that got me thinking about all of this in the first place. If you're looking for a half-time job, a 20-hour-a-week job, be super honest about that. Also, if you're an employer, don't close your mind to half-time employees. I can't tell you how many times, and it's literally dozens and dozens, I have hired people part-time either because they were coming out of school or they were in school and they had kids, they had a family, they're trying to make things work. So long before any of this COVID mentality and so forth, people were working on work-life balance. And I got to tell you, people who work on work-life balance are great employees. So if you've got somebody who wants to get the kids off to school, come into work for 4 or 5 hours, then go pick up the kids from school and maybe work a couple hours in the evening, hire them. Hire them as quickly as you can. Those people have flexible minds, flexible work schedules. They've got some sense of how they can make their work and their life work together. So don't ignore the fact that you have lots of people out there looking for 20 hours a week or 30 hours a week. Look at schools, put out internship opportunities. Everybody in the sound of my voice knows at least one, if not 10 community colleges, junior colleges, trade schools, and four-year colleges where there's a job board. And you can call them up and you can put your posting there. And just know you're going to deal with people who are students and they need some flexibility. They have days that they have to take off because of tests or whatever. Work with them and make it happen. If you're a student, be super honest. Look, I have this skill level, but I will work my tail off and I will have a higher skill level in 3 or 4 or 5 years. But that's the path I'm on. Do you want to be my employer or not? When I first moved to California, I was looking for a part-time job. I was teaching part-time and I was finishing my dissertation, and I literally living in Davis, California, and one day I printed up a bunch of resumes and I walked door to door to door trying to get one extra job. And my line was, hey, can I speak to the owner or the manager? And they would say, oh, yep, hi, I'm whoever. And I would say, hi, I'm Carl. I'm going to get a new job today, And they would like almost interrupt me and say, "Oh, congratulations!" Da, da, da. And then I would say, "No, I'm getting a new job today, and I'm hoping it's with you." Right? So I went in with this super positive attitude, and I literally went in saying, "I'm going to get this job." So if you're looking for a job, I know it can be frustrating, especially in an environment where everybody always seems to be looking for somebody other than you. But the truth is, there's a lot of people out there, and you can connect, and it is frustrating, and it's just that frustration today is part of what you have to go through. So on both sides, I encourage you to add a dollop of patience to your processes and procedures and a dollop of honesty. Tell people what you got and what you expect. Tell people what you're looking for and what you need them to do. And of course, there's got to be a match on that pay scale. And just because you've been underpaying or being underpaid for a long time, don't put that in the new relationship. Level set. This is 2022, almost 2023. What is the world going to look like in the next 1 to 2 years? Let's design a job and a payroll structure for that. A whole bunch of random tips, but all related to hiring and getting hired. I hope this was useful. Subscribe, like, tell your friends about this. I really would love to grow this channel. I got 7,000 subscribers. I'd love to get to 150. So like, subscribe, and share. Thank you very much. This is Carl from Small Biz Thoughts, wishing you the best of luck in everything you do.